Hello everyone and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler and we are taking another look at the Mystery against Koivisto bonus at the Chess.com Computer Chess Championships. So Mystery scored extremely well against Koivisto, and this was one of the games I liked very much. I always like a good Nimzo Indian Samish, one of my favourite structures throughout my career. And, well, Mystery certainly played a very nice one here. So let's see how it went. Started off with 1d4, knight f6, c4, e6, knight c3, bishop b4, e3. And now the chess.com book was a bit, well, a little bit annoying for black somehow. Immediately taking on c3. Normally, black waits for white to play a3 to force it, and then takes on c3, which gives black an extra tempo. But the chess.com book actually goes for the original Nimzovich idea, which is to take on c3 as quickly as possible, give white the double pawns, not worry about losing the two bishops, and then play d6. And the idea is to set up a dark squared pawn structure with c5 and e5. It's not as bad as it looks. I've actually, when I reviewed a huge collection of Nimzovich's best games and writings, I spent a little while looking at these very early bishop c3 ideas. Actually, even against queen c2, Nimzovich played bishop takes c3, which also amazingly turns out not to be so bad either. So spent a lot of time on this, and yeah, it was quite actually quite reasonable. But yeah, obviously, if you can wait a move for it to happen, that might be even better. So e5 played, e4, and now the chess.com book was a little bit unfriendly. This move queen e7. Yeah, I mean, the queen in a way is attacking this pawn on e4. Only white can just play knight e2. That's still the chess.com book, and well, after e takes d4, takes knight e4. This is rather dangerous. I mean, you've got the open e file, which is going to get attacked once you go castles and then rook e1. And also, taking on d4, taking on e4 is just open diagonals for the two bishops. It's a very dangerous position for black. So black's not going to take the pawn, so then queen e7's a little bit of a waste, and well, as you'll see, it's more than a waste. It's actually a real inconvenience. So c5 anyway was the book move, and I think that the book ended here. So after castles, yeah, I mean, my engines were just playing castles, which is kind of reasonable. Koivisto played the move h6, which is not silly at all. Because one of black's ideas often in once you've taken on c3 is to get a dark squared pawn structure and clamp on white's position all across the board. So you're going to play g5, and that's going to stop white from going f4, hopefully. But just yeah, the way that it goes, somehow it ends up not feeling very consistent with what the rest of Koivisto does. But in principle, it's a decent move here. Now, I was very happy with what Mystery played next, because Mystery played knight g3. Now, I'm very, very keen in these positions to keep the central tension and not commit it too soon. I think in the reverse, Koivisto played d5, and I think that Mystery played g5, and we just got some sort of block position where basically Koivisto couldn't get through. And knight g3, you never fear black taking on d4 or doing anything to open the center. There's a classic game, Botvinnik against Keres from the 1948 World Championship. Oh, I do sound old, but yeah, really that is a classic game that shows when you open the center what can happen. I mean, it's not as clear as that game looked, but still, that's the sort of attack that you can get, really. So white just leaves it and then prepares to play f4. And what you notice is that with this knight coming into g3, this queen on e7 is going to get a little bit worried, and particularly, if you go knight d7, then knight f5 is going to be very unpleasant for black. So yeah, already that queen on e7, you start thinking, oh, it would be much better on d8, really. Now, again, you might go castles in this position. Here, actually, Stockfish was playing the move d5 against Komodo, and well, I said, don't want you to close the centre, but here it really does have a point with black's king in the castled on the king side, because actually black's got a big problem developing here. If you go knight d7, then knight f5 will actually pick up the d6 pawn, can't be defended. And well, Komodo played queen d8 in order to play knight d7, and then white plays f4. If ef, then bishop f4. Again, you still can't play knight d7 because d6 is hanging. And if you go knight d7, Stockfish played f5, and then you're just going to get ready to throw forward the kingside pawns with g4 and an h4, rook e8, knight h1, and then the pawns are coming. So yeah, basically, very unpleasant position for black there. So Koivisto did something a little bit strange in a way, just took on d4 and then took on d4 again. And well, here, Mystery made use of the fact that black had taken immediately on a3, not waiting for a2 to a3, because it played the move bishop a3, and this pressure is very, very annoying. Hitting the d6 pawn, and actually you combine it with a push of the f pawn and then a push of the e pawn. Now basically in the game this move just won the exchange, because black didn't want to play a miserable move like pardon me, knight e8, and gave up the exchange with d takes e5. The funny thing is that Stockfish didn't want to play e5. Stockfish didn't consider the win of the exchange the best, and just played the move h3. And yeah, I mean, essentially you understand there. I mean, you're keeping this long-term pressure on d6, keeping this lovely pawn center, and you're just going to build up your attack. And well, actually Stockfish came up with something very nice. I'll just show you how that went, because somehow exchange sacrifices were figuring very heavily in lots of these lines. So rook b1 to b5, the rook just sweeping that fifth rank. A5, bishop b2, so the bishop heading back to d4 now. So yeah, I mean, this knight cannot move from c6, because yeah, if white gets bishop takes d4, that's going to be really bad. And well, what you actually saw was queen e7, rook f3, so this rook's looking to come around here as well, bishop e6, king h2, king h8, and I thought this one was very, very visual, just rook d5. So Stockfish just putting the rook on prise, but basically just asking black, go on, take it, and then afterwards the knight will have to move, and we'll have bishop d4, and of course, because the light square bishop has gone, we'll have knight f5 as well, and followed by rook g3, and it's just going to be carnage. So yeah, that was very, very nice. And I mean, it has to be said that Stockfish was winning all of its games against Dragon in this in these games. So yeah, it looks like h3 is also pretty strong. Basically just means that white's just got a very nice position here, which, well, I mean, to be honest, why not? Black's wasted quite a bit of time playing bishop c3 straight away, queen e7 to d8. Extra pawn is just a double pawn in the center. White's got the two bishops. It's what you'd expect, really. But Mystery sort of went to resolve the situation straight away. Takes, and but now Mystery really followed up with a very nice move, and you really saw the difference in my games. But I don't think it's a move that I would have thought of, to be honest. Whenever Dragon played the move fe, which it played, something like I think 4 out of 5 times, then Stockfish was managing to hold a draw. Knight g4, rook f4, takes, knight bc6, and I think we see this a number of times in the game, in actual fact. And when white sort of tidies up the position, just takes black's d pawn, and remains an exchange up here, an exchange for the pawn, then black's drawing chances are not so bad, because well, and got a good pawn structure, a pawn here that you can attack, and also the black king is very safe. What Mystery actually did was much nicer. It played this move bishop f5, not an obvious move at all. And what is the idea of bishop f5? Well, the idea is to take on c8, get rid of this bishop on c8, and that gives you the possibility to put a knight on f5, which attacks the black king side. And that really, gives white some extra pluses. That's really making the most of white's dynamic advantage here, which is, clearly a lead in development somehow. It's a very, very fine move, bishop f5. And, well, Dragon did it, maybe a couple of times, and I think Stockfish was doing this quite regularly as well. So e takes f4 played, bishop takes c8, queen takes c8. Yeah, obviously if you take on here, we've got bishop b7, which is a nice point. Queen c8, and then rook f4, knight c6. And now, well, you can do it in either move order. Queen f1 was played in the game. Yeah, rook f6 you obviously think about, but yeah, you're a bit short of firepower really. We just play queen e6 and knight e7, and yeah, queen g4, knight g6, and black's sort of covered there. That's all right. So not quite enough for that sort of attack yet, but queen f1 played, queen d7, and now knight f5. And well, already we've got ideas like knight takes g7 or knight takes h6 check here. So this is already putting some pressure on. And White's idea, and very fine idea, is to actually, what you want to do, you want to damage the black king side, maybe nick off one of those pawns, and then afterwards come back and attack that weak d pawn and win it. And you'll have the d pawn, but you'll also have either a weakness on the king side, or you'll have an extra pawn on the king side as well. And yeah, it's a very advanced bit of strategy there. And but yeah, I mean, I think if you understand the concept, you understand a little bit about how this works, then you might well think about it in your own games. Just not just going for the minimum and saying, okay, well, I'll tidy up the position, get rid of a potential passed d pawn, and then we'll look afterwards what happens, which would probably be my practical approach. But you're sort of saying, well, I've got all this attacking potential, a great knight on f5, can I make use of it? And making use of it means grabbing or creating a weakness on black's king side, and then coming back for the pawn after. Yeah, so sort of moments that you can totally miss when you're playing, but you just see when you analyse with an engine after. So d3 was played, which I think is definitely the most challenging here. I mean, black's got to try and punish white for the fact that white hasn't gone after that d4 pawn. But knight takes h6 check here. Yeah, you don't go knight g7, by the way, because here we've got queen d4 check, which would well, just be a little bit awkward. This is not going to be this is not a good way of playing for white. So knight takes h6 check, and now king f8. Obviously, g takes h6, rook f6 is pretty nice for white, really. I mean, we put the rook to d1 and then try and line up on that one, and we've always got this open king as an extra little tactical resource. So king f8 was played by Koivisto, and that's the choice of most of my engines there. Rook d1, rook d8, and actually, yeah, I mean, this is always quite interesting, especially analysing with engines. Engines often point out that there's kind of a crucial point in a position that you hadn't really realised. I mean, in this position, Mystery went queen f2, and I was sort of thinking, well, wonder why you're going queen f2. Couldn't you just sort of play something like king h1, for example? Just get out of any checks. I mean, I was sort of thinking that if you go rook f6, I could take and go queen d4 check. That's not very good. So I thought, well, why could you just do something like king h1? But actually the engines are saying queen e6, knight f5, queen e2, and black's absolutely fine. Getting the queen into here is really giving black a lot of counterplay there. So actually, there's a moment you don't really realise. You think that white's just pressing, and that's just long term, and black can't really do that much about it. But actually, there are crucial tactical moments all over the place. And well, I mean, you can't spot all these things in practical games, but yeah, it definitely does. Help your general awareness when you look at this with the engines afterwards. So queen f2 played, and actually that's a very nice move. I mean, it's also got this little idea of queen c5 check possibly as well. So knight e7 was played by Koivisto, just trying to get the knight across, maybe to defend the king side, maybe to chase away the rook from f4 with knight g6. h3 played, and now b6. Yeah, first thought I'd sort of lost track of the point of queen f2 actually, because I was thinking knight g6, what's wrong with that? But actually then you just go queen c5 check, which is really annoying, and well, black's got to swap off the queen straight away, which is not really that nice. I mean, going to be very hard to keep this d pawn if black's queens are exchanged. So b6 played just to cover a7, of course, but also to cover the c5 square as well and prevent queen c5. But knight g4 played. And now it gets really, really tactical, actually, and just always amazes you how these engine games flare up from time to time, and also, of course, you get you get used to it, but seeing the game flaring up, becoming a total mess in human eyes, but seeing the engines very coolly saying it's +3, it's always funny. But knight g6 played. And here Mystery played knight takes f6, and this is actually going to convert white's advantage from this, I suppose you'd say slightly messy exchange for a pawn up position into a queen and rook ending that Mystery considers to be completely winning. So knight f6, queen a4, that's a shock. That could be a shock in a human game in time trouble. Just sidestepping the attack on the queen, attacking this rook on d1, and actually also leaving this rook on f4 on prise. So knight h7 check, king g8, rook d2, knight f4, queen f4. And the clever point about it is after king h7, it's not that we're taking on f7, it's that we're going queen h4 check and forking these two guys. So black plays f6 to try and stop the knight from getting out. And now we take, and go queen takes f6 here, attacking the rook on d8, queen d7, and or just make a couple more moves there maybe. C5 played, takes, check, king h7, and queen takes c5, and these sort of positions you do. They're not, sort of 100% obvious, to human eyes that that this is absolutely winning. Mainly because you're looking at that monster pawn on d3 and seeing that it's quite tough to get the rook out of the way. And you're sort of thinking, well, how really am I going to make progress here? Am I going to move my kingside pawns forward? But isn't that going to expose my king if I do that? But for the engines, this is absolutely completely winning, essentially. I mean, there's two things to it, really. I mean, first of all, of course, this king is completely exposed. So there are often a lot of sneaky opportunities just to move the rook, out of the way and then end up mating simply, and you don't worry about the pawn queening. The other thing is there are loads of checks, and if there's one thing that engines. Well, if you're talking about the peak, the pinnacle for that, it's Stockfish with its queen. But in combining checks with improving your position, then Stockfish does that brilliantly. But I think in this position, any engine could do that. And the other thing is that it feels scary that you're going to start advancing these pawns in front of your king, but obviously with the checks and everything, and always the danger that you'll be able to swap off the queens because the black king's so open. This actually ends up being quite a simple win here. Interestingly enough, you can really tell here that it's an engine defending. You'd spot it straight away if you just played it, just blank, because black plays a5 here, and actually white can just take that pawn, and indeed does. But the idea that black wants is to play queen d4 and get the queen active that way. I mean, as a human player, I would have probably wanted to wait and not give away something. But actually, at some stage, wherever it is, black always in these engine games, black always ended up playing a5 and just trying to distract the white queen and just centralize here and then look for counterplay. And it's not 100% trivial. I mean, this could be quite tricky in a blitz finish because a moment's inattention or whatever, and suddenly the queen's coming in here or the rook's coming into to e2, and it's getting quite worrying. But obviously Mystery had no problems. So queen g5 check, king f7. Let's have a look. There's a few interesting ideas. King h8, for example, queen f4, queen d5. We give a few checks. And now rook f2, which is quite nice. You're looking for ideas like rook f4 to h4 simply if if black doesn't do anything. So actually, rook b8 was played to be able to meet rook f4 with rook b2 check. But now white can play the move h4, because if d2, we've got queen h6 check, and we're picking that up. So rook a8 played, and now rook f5, rook a2 check, king h3 check, queen e2, king g5, and yeah, this is getting rather scary. Rook a8, king h6, queen e3 check, rook f4, queen e7, rook f7, and yeah, you know, this is just going to end up completely winning for white, you know. But it's yeah, you know, there's you can see that, you know, there's a lot of engine calculation that makes this an awful lot simpler if you've got it. If you haven't got that, then you'll be yeah, you know, you'll have a reasonably tough time converting it, though you should be able to do it. I mean, it's also, you know, in a human game this would be quite difficult for black to defend as well, because the king's so open, easy to overlook a series of checks leading to the exchange of queens, for example. So king f7 played, and now h4. Yeah, queen f4 check. I'm wondering whether that would have been also quite good. Maybe the black king is a bit active like that. So just h4, rook d6, king h3, king e6, queen g6, queen f5, queen f6, queen c5. Yeah, just king e8, queen e3 check, king d8, g4, and yeah, you know, actually, when you look at it, it's not too difficult. I mean, the queen and the rook just stay blockading and attacking this pawn on d3. The queen covers the king from most checks. I mean, after queen f1, we've just got king g3. And then the pawns start running, and the most obvious way to start is to play g4 to h5 at least, you know, just get those going. And well, you never know. I mean, you can always end up just you know, sacrificing a kingside pawn just to exchange off queens and leave yourself with a winning rook and pawn ending. So yeah, queen c3, h5, king to c8 played, rook d1, queen f6, king g3, king c7, g5. Yeah, you're getting braver somehow. Yeah, I'm feeling you know, the tension a little bit here somehow, but yeah, just pushing on. And well, I mean, here Koivisto gave up the d pawn, and obviously considering it to be completely lost, and that's obviously winning. Obviously, in a human game, you know, black would just hold on to the d pawn, but yeah, you know, it still looks to be winning. I mean, actually, not only do you have you know, these pawns that you can push here, for example. So this was this was one of my games, you know, h6 and g5 coming in. I mean, you've also got ideas like you know, queen f6 played. You can't go rook d3, by the way, because of queen f1 check. But then you've also got a4 as well. Again, if you can swap off this pawn for this pawn, that'll be great as well. So yeah, just with all those pawns that that white has got, it's easy to chase away. So there we are. I thought that was a very nice game, actually. Very nice game from Mystery. But as you can see, I mean, I think it's playing fairly differently, to be honest, to both Stockfish and Komodo. So I don't think that that this engine is. I definitely don't think the engine is Stockfish, and I'm fairly sure that it's not Komodo Dragon, not the typical one. I'm wondering about MCTS Komodo Dragon. So I'm just maybe going to do a few little tests there. I'm going to analyze with it and just see whether yeah, you know, something changes a little bit. But yeah, who knows? Maybe it's another engine. I mean, somebody, Leela's greatest fan, Mr. Bede, suggested it might be Stowflace, a new version, but I don't think this engine plays like Stowflace at all. I mean, Stowflace has got a little bit calmer and less zany, unfortunately, as it's got stronger and stronger. But still, this doesn't look like Stowflace at all. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really intrigued. And then yeah, you know, just if you looked at the previous video that came out, where I showed a couple of things that Mystery had done wrong, it seemed like it was having problems when it got short of time, which again, it's not really very typical of you know, of a calculating monster like you know, like Stockfish or Komodo Dragon. So very intrigued about all that. So yeah, I do wonder when it'll be revealed what engine that Mystery is. But anyway, I've been enjoying it an awful lot. You know, thanks very much to chess.com for all of the efforts that they make to run computer chess. It's you know, really, really nice. A little bit different to TCEC, so a lot faster games. Openings are probably you know, probably even more extreme than the TCC ones, but yeah, as you see, still producing some very nice and very interesting games. So so there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. If you enjoyed this video, why not give a like, subscribe? That's always really nice. And otherwise, take a look at my newish book, the Re-engineering the Chess Classics, which basically, you know, uses techniques described in the Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, which I use on this channel as well, to analyze games, but applying that to classic games. And you know, there's lots of interesting tactical ones, famous ones. And also maybe some slightly less well-known ones, and some big strategical games that you know, where the engines just give, you know, loads of new, unexpected, and interesting suggestions. So do take a look at that. And otherwise, thanks very much for watching, and hope to see you at the next video. Thanks for watching.